welcome to the Poetry Plan. Once again, it's been a while. A lot's happened in the past few months since I did the Halloween special post. We relocated from London up to the northeast of England. Christmas has come and gone, as have many birthdays. I seem to have 4 or 5 birthdays in December. It's a busy month. And of course now it's coming up to the new year. So I really hope that you've all had a wonderful festive period, whether you celebrate Christmas or not. You've enjoyed the holiday and you're looking forward to the new year and you're going to bring it in style. So to go back to the last video, we're going to talk today about Sylvia Plath's Wintering. I'm not sure how many of you have read the poem, or have a copy rather of Ariel. If you have a copy of this collection, you'll be able to see that Wintering is the last of a sequence of bee poems, which start with the bee meeting, followed by the arrival of the bee box, stings, and then wintering. The interesting thing about each of the poems is that they show a progression of emotion and the development of the persona within the poems. And so wintering is the final stage, the coming together of everything that's been learned from the previous poems, in a way. I read some criticism yesterday, and I'll put a link at the bottom here so you can all access it. And one of the critics linked this poem really strongly to Plath's life, because it turns out at this point she was separated from Ted Hughes and was dealing with all of the emotions of a disappointment in a failed marriage, how to then find yourself and move on your own after having had that close and somewhat tumultuous relationship. And whilst I think that the author's life and history is important, for me it's also vital to realise that not all poems are purely autobiographical. Yes, the writer's life has an influence, where the writer is emotionally, physically, what they're doing at that particular time. It will have an impact, because poetry and any creative act is not formed within a vacuum. But I think it's also important to remember that the poem is a persona. It's not just Plath sitting there writing everything that is pouring out of her heart. It's a method for her to express those feelings, but also to explore them by creating a persona and a character that perhaps isn't her. Perhaps this isn't exactly how she's feeling, but how she wants to feel, or how she perhaps felt a while ago but no longer is. So I guess the best way is to be maybe the shadow of Plath is involved in this poem, but for me it's all about the actual persona and the character that she's created. So I know at the end of the reading I mentioned that there's a feeling of loneliness throughout the poem, and I think that's really emphasised by a feeling of quietness, of all the activities come and gone, and now they're waiting, they're holding out for whatever might happen after the winter, and at one point it's not even clear if there will be anything after the winter. This is emphasised by the really soft sounds of wintering, without window, heart, house, all in the second stanza. There's nothing plosive there, it's all very gentle and lulling. I think the idea that we're not sure of any hope for the future at one point can be seen in the fact that the persona is putting her jars of honey beside the last tenant's rancid jam. So it's a sense that this has already happened before to other people. It's not a new story, it's not a new series of events, it's just a cycle that characters, people enter into. For me, this part as well, it felt a bit like she was actually within the hive, because we've got the darkness, a room I've never been in, the black is bunched in there like a bat, Chinese yellow, black asininity. For me, I thought that maybe that was the bees, and the kind of this dark spaces in a hive that you get that we can never really see unless you have one of those posh little microscopic cameras. And that kind of warmth and quiet buzz. And I thought perhaps the persona was being envisaged as the queen, the kind of the hub around which all of the activity of the hive and of life for a human spins around. And then you have this person standing in the middle, watching it all, being central to what goes on, because obviously without the queen a hive can't exist. And this persona feels quite similar. She's gone down, she's bunkered down, and life swirls on around her, but within her there's a quietness and going into a hibernation state. Again, this is the time of hanging on for bees, so it's a waiting. I have lots of scrolled notes all over this, so just bear with me. This is the easy time, there is nothing doing, which is the very first line. Really emphasises that sense of waiting, and that the hardness, the hard tasks, the difficulties have been passed, and now is the time to contemplate and to wait. I really like the image of the black mind against all that white, which is stanza 7. I think that not only creates a stark contrast within this world where there's very little colour, it's black and white, there's the bit of yellow from the bees, but that's it. It's very stark and clear, and there's no confusion within the colour. I like the way as well that it also, for me, created an image of the mind, and that it's, a ball of busyness, of each bee is an individual thought buzzing around, communicating with one another, sending messages, and trying to find an expression, and it never stops whirring. I'm sure we've all definitely had that experience when your mind just doesn't stop and you just want to be quiet. And the contrast between the black of that mad activity and the white of the snow and the crispness and clearness, I think, just really kind of captured that for me. And I think as well, because obviously they're massing to, the bees are massing to perhaps move, is also links that into the action, and suddenly we've gone from an almost languid state within the poem of waiting. This is the easy time, there's nothing to do. We're filing along and we've got our honey and we've got our stores and everything's ready. And then suddenly we have this buzz of movement. So you can see there's a shift within the poem. It's interesting as well that the bees have got rid of all of their men, which I think is central to how some critics read it, really closely linked to Plath life. Winter is for women, and I think that links it back to the idea that there's nothing doing. And I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with the Tao, but this is an idea that in nothingness is when you create something. By doing nothing, you do everything. And I love the way that Plath, by linking it to womanhood and the idea of bending over the cradle, which obviously has an implied baby in it, and her body is a bulb. It's that potential for creativity, for life, for nurturing. And this hunkering down hibernation is all about waiting and preparing for that moment to come. I realise you may be on a slight angle, but my camera keeps falling over, so you have to bear with me. Okay. And then so finally, the last stanza I think is really important to discuss, because all of a sudden there's colour, there's fire, there's gladioli, and that brings a real warmth and sense of life to the poem, that the hibernation is ended and there's potential, there's there's that sense of spring will come, it's not the end. We're not going, the persona rather, is not going to disappear out of this world like the last tenant and Sir So-and-so. They're not going to leave behind the... No, I guess they'll, but yeah. Yeah, so there's a movement from the black ball and the mind that buzzes together, and the bees are flying. They taste the spring. I think is a real sign of hope and that there will be a future. And it takes us out from the beginning of the poem, where this is the easy time, there is nothing doing, there's no action, no movement, to end on the bees are flying and they taste is full of action and a progression and a change in dynamic. Anyway, thanks very much everyone. As I said before, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Stay nice and warm, snuggle up, and I'll see you in 2015.